Hi everybody, Troy from the Do-It-Yourself World and the Off-Grid Project. Chilling in my tiny house on wheels, and this video is about how I got to where I am today. I'll give you a little history of the Off-Grid Project. A lot of people have been asking for this for a long time now and wondering, how I got to be where I am today from the time I lost my job to the time we are right now sitting in my tiny house on wheels that I built myself. So I'll try to give you a little overview, try not to make it too long, but this is just going to be from the beginnings of the Off-Grid Project to the present. Alright, just a summary, short overview of how I got to where I am today with the Off-Grid Project and a tiny house on wheels. I'm going to do another video. It's going to be a history of my life, and basically it's going to cover my beginnings to the present, my entire life, and tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to be how I am today and where I am today. So that'll be another video. Hopefully you'll look forward to it, and it's something else people have been talking about and asking about a lot. So I hope to cover, while I'm outdoor cleaning up outdoors and doing boring picking up garbage work, to entertain you with some videos that answer a lot of questions you guys have been asking throughout the time. And this has been a very widely asked question anyway. So, how I got here? Well, it started out three and a half years ago. I think the Off-Grid Project really started when I lost it was one of the hurricanes. I don't want to lie, I forget if it was Irene or Sandra, I forget which is which now. One of the hurricanes, I think it was Irene. I was working in New York City as a computer programmer and search engine optimization expert at the time, and I was also helping a company do house cleanouts down in New York City, and I would work for free, and therefore I was able to keep any of the stuff that I wanted, that I would salvage from being put into the compacting truck and crushed and taken to landfill. It was enough to make a good business out of. So besides my SEO work, search engine optimization, for those of you that don't know what that means, it's getting a website on position 1 of Google, ranking high on page 1 of Google. Anyway, besides that work, I was running an antique shop, which was stocked purely with stuff I got for free, working for free in New York City, cleaning some really nice houses down there. And the hurricane came along, and I was living in an old colonial home, which was beautiful. I was sharing with 4 other people, and it was a really beautiful property. I call it a mansion, on 5 acres of land, and it was in Harriman, by the way. And my antique shop and the house, well, the antique shop got flooded, absolutely flooded, under 5 foot of water. I lost everything. The house got water damaged, and it was really shot. I had to leave. Everybody was getting sick, and I didn't have any money anymore to stay there. It was $1,200 a month rent plus utilities, which was, the utilities split among us. It was $1,200 a month for the electric bill and $1,200 a month for the oil bill, and that was distributed throughout the entire year. So the 5 of us divided that cost every month. It was outrageous prices. The cost of living there was insane, but it was beautiful. And I was living a pretty decent life there. But yeah, I lost it all. And at the time I had the survival truck camper. I had just finished remodeling it. Funny enough, I spent the time during the hurricane in the truck camper to ride out the weather and the storms. Well, when I lost everything, I came over to this area where I am now, I was looking for, they were advertising a trailer for sale, and I was looking for the trailer to put my stuff on, to haul behind my vehicle, and I was going to live in the truck camper and haul my belongings in a trailer behind me. And I had asked if they had a place for me to park my truck camper and sleep, and they said, well, we've got a room in the house, just come here and stay. So I did, and it was affordable. I had my own bathroom, my own little kitchenette, my own room, And I stayed there for maybe 6 or 8 months in the house. But I loved the land out here, and I kept asking if I could live out in the property. And eventually, I ended up with a free camper, the 30-footer, which is now the trailer frame that my tiny house is on. And we'll get to that in a minute though, but I got a free camper, which was in pretty bad shape. And I paid a tow truck to bring it here, and got it here, and parked it out on the property. And I would do projects and experiments out in it. And that is basically where the origins of the off-grid project started. I got a job doing PHP programming, and what I was doing is programming websites online. I was programming databases and entire websites, and it was a fully automated system running an entire business. And on the side, I started working heavily on the do-it-yourself world, which I'd had for years, and I was building it up for quite a few years. And then I got the idea for the off-grid project. And I actually tried to do a crowdfunding campaign before I was even popular on YouTube, and it failed miserably. I didn't get a penny. But anyway, I had the idea of the off-grid project, and I started formulating a plan that I wanted to teach people how to get off the grid. But I was still living in the house, and I had this camper parked out here in the property that I was doing experiments in, and I was sleeping in and experimenting, just seeing what it would be like. And I kept asking, can I move out on the property and stay? I want to live there full time in the camper. And eventually they told me, if you rent out your room to somebody else and give us the money, first month's rent, you can move out there. And I did. I found somebody, I put out ads and I advertised my room, and I showed it myself, and finally I found somebody and they gave me the deposit, and I handed it to the owners, and then it got scary. I have to be honest, it was scary. I had a couple homemade solar panels. It was summer, so I didn't have any heat yet, and it was scary. I moved out into that dilapidated camper that I got for free, and that was my home. That was my home full time. And eventually I moved it into the meadow where I currently am, and set up the rainwater collection panels in the middle of the meadow. And around that time, I still wasn't doing very well. I wasn't doing any hot stuff on YouTube. I was building up the do-it-yourself world websites. I was trying to build a growing network of people. Started the forum around that period, and my blogging, and I started doing do-it-yourself videos. Like, one of my most popular videos from back in that time is the bicycle generator. And another one of my most popular videos from back in those days is the solar Pathlight battery charger, where I took 3 or 4 solar panels and the sockets from them, and I built a solar battery charger for AA's and AAA's. And that was one of my most popular videos of all time. And that was from the origins of the off-grid project, when I was doing little experiments on YouTube and trying to build up something. And then a friend of mine came over from overseas and got an apartment and convinced me to go move in with him, which probably wasn't a good idea for me. I lived there 6 months. I moved my camper over there at insane cost, and I moved everything over there, leaving the meadow for that period. And I thought I was going to live in that house, but I always wanted to finish the off-grid project. Well, things didn't work out with the landlord and myself and everything else, and then I lost my job on my birthday, of all things. They let me go on my birthday. It was pretty crazy. I had basically programmed myself out of a job, which I happen to do a lot with PHP programming. I would develop a fully automated system, and then they wouldn't need me anymore. So they let me go, and I started doing videos, and or I was talking about doing videos. I don't remember if I even did anything yet, but my landlord decided to double my rent, knowing I just lost my job. But he's thinking, oh, he's going to make YouTube videos, he's going to be rich and famous, and so he tried to charge me double, knowing I just lost everything, right? And it was a crazy runaround. I don't want to go into it. I don't want to bring up any hard feelings or talk against anybody, but bottom line, he ended up kicking me out in the middle of a blizzard, and that's when I started doing some videos of me moving into my camper, that dilapidated old camper, in the middle of a blizzard, in the dead of winter, and he even kept my chickens. He said, well, you could start over again. And it wasn't like I owed him any money or anything. He just was like, I don't understand. But anyway, it happened. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me, I have to say. So God has his hands in everything. Even the bad things turn out to be good. Because I started doing some videos in the camper, and I remember sitting there with baby cat in my lap, freezing, fully decked out with my coat and everything, sitting there shivering. You can see my breath coming out of my mouth. And I did a video talking about how I just lost everything and this is going to be my job now. And I did some videos of me moving stuff into the camper, and people were like, this is great stuff, give us more, you should just do daily videos. So I did, and that was the beginning of the off-grid project full time. Then I eventually had the camper towed over here, back to my meadow, my beloved meadow. I was paying $200 a month rent, and I was living out here with no connections to the outside world. My only internet connection was a cell phone. I had wireless internet through the cell phone, and I was uploading videos on the cell phone. And it was pretty primitive, but it worked. And I had a few homemade solar panels, that I made myself, by the way. They were like, I think I started with 60 watts of solar panels and eventually made a couple more. I think I had maybe 120 to 150 watts of solar panels when I was done. It wasn't much, but yeah, it kept my laptop going and kept me on YouTube. And then I set up all those big rainwater collectors out in the middle of the meadow, which you probably see on Google Plus or whatever you call it, Google Earth. It's still there today, those things. And had my rainwater collection, and somebody gave me the Berkey water filter, which I'm still using today, by the way. And that was my only water filtration device. And then I eventually put the rainwater collector on the top of the camper. Anyway, life was okay. It was rough. It was really rough. And that winter was brutal. It was insane, that next winter in that camper. That first winter was really, really bad. I tell you, that first winter in that camper was just horrible. Anything that could go wrong did go wrong. The wood stove going out on me. I had the Potbelly Sears robot Potbelly wood stove with a water jacket, and it was a water boiler. And I had a homemade baseboard heating system using a car heater core and tubing and a solar water pump, hot water pump, that pumped the water through a car heater core where I had 2 computer fans blowing heat on the other end of the camper, and then the water circulated back through the water jacket. It was a precarious system at best, and some people gave me some thermostats to control the fans, which was cool. And I was improving it. It was decent, but the camper was cold. And Baby Cat and I would suffer pretty bad in there. And we'd get up in the morning with ice, frozen water in the cat's water dish, my water frozen. So it was pretty cold, but I'm fortunate also that somebody gave me a very nice sleeping bag that I still have and love very much. It was a heavy, extreme cold weather Coleman sleeping bag, and that really helped. That really helped a lot. So, back even in the beginnings, people were helping me out to get to where I am today. Even the rainwater collection tank was from my friend Neil. So people really helped me out, and I started to see that there is some hope for humanity, because people really care about people. When somebody's down and out, people care, and they lend a helping hand. And then of course I started getting visitors, and people helped me out. My mom and dad came the one time and helped me rebuild the larger rainwater collection system out here in the meadow, which eventually got destroyed by tremendous winds. That's when I started realizing the winds here are pretty bad. And then the following year I found the motorhome on Craigslist, and knowing the camper was pretty bad. The camper was in bad shape. If you go back to the demolition videos, there was nothing there. The framing was rotted to nothingness. The only thing holding that camper up was the paneling and the sheet metal. I can't believe that didn't collapse on my head. But got the motorhome and renovated that with pure help from everybody. Just the amount of things that people sent me even my own family. That motorhome was purely renovated by you guys. I did the work, but you guys really provided everything I needed. And I want to thank you guys for that, because that motorhome was in my home for the next year. And it was better. It wasn't drafty, and it had insulation in the walls, which I couldn't say for the camper. And it was solid. It had metal framing. And eventually I got heat. I built the outdoor heating system because I didn't want to have the wood stove in the motorhome. I didn't want to modify the motorhome and cause leaks by putting holes in the walls and stuff. So I built the outdoor porch and enclosed that and put a wood stove, the potbelly wood, or the barrel wood stove kit, and ran piping and duct work, also with the help of people. I can't believe, looking back, I got a lot of help from you guys. I want to thank you all, because it really made my life better. When I was down and out, when I had nothing, you guys were there for me. And so that wood stove, actually I had a convection heating system going on in the end, where the hot air would rise in and flow into the RV through the bedroom window, and then cold air would naturally flow back in the bottom, replacing that. And I had a cycling flow in the end, and it worked. It was pretty good. But I still woke up with ice on the top of the cat's water dish, because down by the floor was always cold. It was warm up top, but it was always cold on the bottom at freezing temperature. And mornings were pretty brutal because the wood stove would go out. Now I remember it wasn't during the daytimes and evenings. It was comfortable in there because I had fans circulating the air. But at night the wood stove would fade out, and I didn't like getting up in the night because it was cold. I just didn't like getting up in the night to go feed the fire, so I let it go out. And that's why I had mornings, some cold mornings with ice on the water. And it was hard, but it was better than the camper by far. And it was my home. I was off the grid. And Morningstar Corporation sent me the TriStar MPPT charge controller somewhere around that period, but between the camper and the motorhome. And things started getting better. And then Tim got those solar panels he lent me, which I've finally been paying off. I'm almost completely done with that. They're almost all completely mine finally. And started building up with real solar panels, improving my water system. And the motorhome was nice. It was very pretty. It was very clean. I got the plumbing going, and it was really nice. The stovetop worked. The oven never did work. The fridge worked for a while, but it eventually blew out. And I liked it. It was nice. I had a 32-inch LED TV, golf cart batteries in there, and I built that bench for the golf cart batteries. And I would sit there or lay there and watch movies on the 32-inch TV online, on the internet, or from Redbox. And I was really happy. It was looking pretty good. But I didn't like the idea of spending another freezing cold winter breaking ice out of the cat's water dish for her to drink water anymore. So I was thinking about going into debt and buying a $10,000 prefab Amish home. Those, basically a shed, which is a drop in the place portable shed, or building a tiny house on wheels. I really worked it over in my mind for months. I think it took me 3 months to figure out which way I wanted to go. I talked to friends, I talked to my church, I talked to everybody, I talked to YouTube, trying to figure out which way to go. And I ended up deciding to go with a tiny house on wheels. I did the calculations and I realized it was going to be cheaper to build my own home. I knew, for one, obviously, that since now YouTube was my job, my full-time job, I knew it would boost my business greatly. By the way, I forgot, I have to backtrack. When I first started out, back out here in the meadow, I did get a part-time job. I forgot about that. I worked 2 to 3 times a day in an office doing PHP programming for a company. But I eventually dropped that. I forgot about it. I kept that on the side to help me pay the bills while the YouTube was building up. And that's how I made it through, that's right. And then eventually I was doing odd jobs here and there, random PHP programming jobs, random SEO jobs. So throughout I was doing odd jobs and helping people and just random stuff. So I forgot I wanted to backtrack and add that. But moving up to the tiny house on wheels, I decided that that's the way I wanted to go. I wanted to build my own house with my own hands, obviously with some help, but I wanted to build my own home. And I knew it would be a great boost for my YouTube channel, because tiny homes are the big thing now. So I was tired of these cramped camper living situations. I was tired of walking sideways to go through this narrow hallway. Well, not literally, but I mean, you only got 2.5 feet of space between anything in a camper or a motorhome. Your walkways are narrow, and I didn't like that. I wanted to have the comforts of home, but I didn't want to have a massive McMansion to have to clean and maintain and heat. The cost of heating it, the struggles, the cost of cooling it, and the cost of building it, the amount of work involved in keeping it clean. I didn't want all that. I didn't want a massive house, so I wanted a tiny house. I decided on that. And I wanted an upstairs. I was looking at the Amish sheds, and I was looking at upstairs lofts, which were very simple and primitive compared to what I've got. And it would have been about $10,000 for a drop-in Amish shed, which would have been way smaller than my tiny house that I eventually built. And anyway, I started reading some books and getting advice from YouTubers, and I demolished the old camper. It's everything I'm talking about. It's all been video documented. It's all there in the history. So I demolished the camper, and then I was stressed, because then it was August, I think, and I started buying the first materials for the tiny house, and it was scary. I didn't think I was going to make it. I did not think I was going to make it, because the framing costs a lot of money, and with each paycheck I had to buy whatever materials I could get. And then I was doing odd jobs trying to earn extra money to try to get materials to build the tiny house on wheels. And from there, obviously, you've seen me build a tiny house, and I made it bug proof and ant proof and mouse proof on the bottom. It's all metal, covered on the bottom, and coming up the sides a little bit on all the way around. And all the seams of the metal where it overlaps are taped with tar tape, so that it's a pretty good solid base under this tiny house. And it also prevents it from rot, protects the wood from moisture. And I haven't had any mice so far at all in my tiny house on wheels, not a single mouse. Whereas even my truck camper, my motorhome, and my workshop camper, they're always being under attack by mice all the time. So far, the tiny house hasn't had a single mouse. So I'm very thankful. That was a huge success. I put rock wool, mineral wool insulation in the walls, and that is also ant resistant, mouse resistant. And then you guys all saw me get the lumberyard job, where I took this old, rotted, ugly, literally rotting wood and shaved it open to find the beautiful salmon colored wood underneath. That is now my tiny house paneling, which I cut these 2x4s with a table saw to get this beautiful wood inside. So that was really nice, and really turned out well. Then comes winter, and instead of freezing to death and having water, frozen water in the mornings, I got this wood stove in here, and boy, I'll tell you what, the upstairs wasn't done at all, the interior wasn't done at all, I didn't have a bathroom or a kitchen or anything. This place was primitive, but oh, I was roasting in this place. I didn't have much firewood because I did spend all my time building the house before the snows hit. I was desperate and determined to build this house before the snow fell. I made it. And the house was 100 degrees during the daytime. I had to keep the windows open because when the sun was shining, I didn't realize at the time, but I built myself a sort of a solar heated home because the sun would shine right in these windows and heat this house up. And if I had the windows closed, it would be 100 degrees in here. So during the night with the wood stove going, all the windows in the house open. I don't care if it was minus 20 degrees outside, it was 80 degrees in here. So last winter was really cozy. And it was a dry heat, so it didn't feel uncomfortable. It was a nice, comfortable winter last year. And I couldn't have done any of this without you guys, my viewers. I received a lot of help from you guys, and I want to thank you all for being there. I want to thank you for watching the videos. I want to thank you for all the support, all the gifts and donations I've received. I honestly would not be here today if it wasn't for you all. But through all of that, I was able to do many experiments, and a lot of people wondered about my ways. A lot of people wondered, why am I doing certain experiments when it's not necessary, or doing things that I wouldn't need. But I was doing experiments in order to show you guys. And through the years, I've received many phone calls and emails from people thanking me. I've received so much thanks, and people, I mean, I've had tears in my eyes many times from reading emails from people who said they had given up hope, they had lost everything, or people who had PTSD, people who had anxiety problems and were stuck in their homes and never came out again, people who had no hope, people who made a new start after watching my videos, people who I brought new light into their lives, and they started getting out again and going outdoors again and experiencing life again. And that is what kept me going and getting up every morning. Although I have enemies now who make outrageous claims against me and who are trying to destroy my channel and shut me down, what gets me going and getting up every single morning is the emails I get from people thanking me for what I do. And that makes every single bit of the pain and suffering and the blood and the freezing worth it. Every bit of it. I would not want to change a thing. I am thankful for the fact that I lost everything, and I was able to go through that freezing winter because I learned something about myself. I learned a lot about myself. I learned really, you can handle a lot more than you think. You can suffer some extremes and keep on going. You can really do it. You can really make it. And if you lose everything, you don't have to give up hope. There's always hope as long as you're still breathing and walking. There's always hope. And as long as there's community, you can always get back on your feet again. There's always somebody there to help you. Community was a great part of building the tiny house on wheels, and especially the tiny house on wheels. Community helped me get this going. Community helped me rebuild the RV, and community helped me get off the grid. So I think anybody can make a new start because there is hope. So, and here I sit in my LED lit tiny house on wheels, coming towards another winter pretty soon, but we are exactly 1 year from when I started building the tiny house. And if you look at how much I did in 3 months before the snow fell, and I've got, you figure another 3 months, September, October, November, and part of December, I've got 3 months left. I think I can really, really make this place look good before the end of the year. And I knocked off the donations now. I was going to stop receiving gifts and I turned it back on. But I know I wouldn't be here without you today. I am now at a point where I'm comfortable with YouTube. I'm now a landowner, and I still don't have much money because the land payments are really high, but because of that I'm going to have it paid off quicker than usual. So I chose to have the higher land payments but yet have a shorter period of debt. I chose that, which means I don't have a lot of money right now still, but I'm at a point now where I'm buying my land, I'm making it, so it feels good. So if you find yourself losing everything, losing your home, losing your job, If you find that you have anxiety or PTSD, or you're stuck in your home and you just don't think you can do it anymore, just remember there's always hope. Never give up. There's always hope. All you got to do is get up out of that bed, get up out of that chair, take the first step, and just keep going, because you'll be amazed at what you can do. You'll be amazed at what endurance you have. When you think that you have nothing left to give, you'll be amazed you have more than you think. You can do it. You can get up. You can start over again. You can build a new life. You can build a tiny house for yourself out of recycled materials. It takes time. It takes time, and you're going to need help, because honestly I couldn't do the framing. John, and without John this place wouldn't be standing, because I couldn't have done the framing alone. It's just too much for one person, inexperienced person. It was too much for one experienced person to raise those walls alone. So, but if you lose everything, you can build a house. You can start a new life. So that's pretty much my story about the Off-Grid project and where I am today. Moving forward, I have a lot more to come. This is far, far from being over. I'm going to finish the tiny house on wheels. I'm going to have a beautiful, beautiful palace-like garden out here next year with winding pathways and a gazebo in the middle. I want it so dense vegetation that you can't see out while you're walking through the pathways. And I've got big dreams and plans for the meadow. Got a lot of plans for the property in the next years. I do want to be self-sufficient. I am not. I have not claimed to be self-sufficient. I will never make that claim until I am. But I do plan to be self-sufficient, meaning I'm providing all of my own food, all of my own materials to live, and providing my own money through the sales of the products that I make or raise or grow. So that is in the planning. And there is so much more to come. The Off-Grid project will move on. There's a lot to come. So I don't think it'll ever be boring here at the Off-Grid homestead. Life is never boring. Accidents happen, disaster happens, weather happens. There's always something that remind me of those first days sitting in that camper freezing to death. But at least now, sitting here in my tiny house on wheels, I'm comfortable. I want to thank you guys. Thank you all for being there. Thank you all for just everything. You have made this channel what it is today. So, talk to you all later. Troy from the Do-It-Yourself world, and the Off-Grid project, and the tiny house on wheels.